going back to our conversations in the fall, I'm curious, how have you seen the roster kind of develop headed into the spring? What do you like, and where do you guys feel like you got room for improvement?
It's been a fun group to work with. They're, very serious about their work. They've been disciplined in their off the field stuff to where we haven't had any issues off the field that are distracting, which is really good. That can be a real issue in a lot of college locker rooms, and it's not been that way with this group, which is fantastic. They've been a lot of fun to work with. They're very athletic, a little bit more probably athletic than the club that we had a year ago. And so we'll play maybe a little bit of a different style of play. But overall, it seems like there's depth in a lot of places. There's a lot of new people, right? I think the numbers are something along the lines of about 50% of our wins and 2/3 of our home runs from last year's team aren't on this year's team. And so that's just a factual issue. But other than that, you look at the facts and you just address them and you see the personnel you have. And so far, I've really enjoyed being around these guys. They look like they're going to be a really good team.
Yeah, Oz, you got a lot of freshmen that probably could be getting ready for some professional baseball instead of being here, but wanted to be here and for passed on that. How have they kind of come along since the fall from what you've seen?
Well, it seems like they're developing really well by the day. And somebody even showed me somebody's fantastic forecast of freshmen out in college baseball. And when Angel I is not listed on there, I really giggle, because the guy is he should be listed on any top prospect list. And I understand, a lot of the media isn't perfect, just like coaches aren't perfect and players aren't perfect. But, between him and Braden Jackson and so many others that we've got a really talented freshman class. They've been a lot of fun to work with. You're right. They can be and have turned down a lot of money to show up in a Duck uniform instead of being in a professional uniform. There were a couple that got away in that process, that stung. And we really wanted, specifically one. But nevertheless, the guys that are here on campus have been really great kids. It's a team that I think our GPA was really high during the fall. Missed classes weren't an issue. We didn't miss study halls, all that kind of stuff, which is a good indicator of guys just being here for the right reasons and taking care of their business and being mature about it. And that's, the freshman class, I think I can speak to their part of taking care of business. They've been a very mature group so far.
Kind of a truism that you want to be strong up the middle, just with the guys you have returning, guys like Maddox and Ryan on the infield, the talent at catcher, the athleticism in the outfield. Can you just speak to that, how you feel about that going into the season?
Really good. When you start with, Cooney and Maloney up the middle, and to be honest, any of those infielders, whether it's Cooney, Maloney, Smith, those three guys, they can play anywhere in the infield, and it'd be a heck of a comparison. And we've seen it play out where you go, who's better at short, Maloney or Cooney? And it's they're both that good. And Ryan has played second and Maddox has played short. And that's where we'll start it with this year. But that's how good both those players are. And they'll be versatile enough to be able to swing around infields at the professional level and play, any one of those three spots and be able to do it seamlessly with the work they get. But they're really good. And the defense so far in all of our work and scrimmages has been clean. It seems like they have good first steps. There's better range in the outfield, I think, this year. But like I said earlier, we have lost a lot from last year's club, and we're going to need to replace a lot of those numbers.
Hey, Coach. Last year we saw Berkeley Mabius kind of start the year as catcher as Chase kind of came back, and then once Chase was back, we didn't really see Berkeley Mabius that much, and now Berkeley is that top guy. But now there's Braden Jackson, the new freshman, right behind him. What will that kind of look like? Will it be like we saw the freshman Berkeley starting last year and then phasing out? Will it kind of be like? Will it be that same dynamic? Or?
No, they're both going to play, and they're both going to play a lot. They can play other places too. Both those kids can play infield spots, outfield spots. They're super athletic, and they're really, really good. When you watch Braden Jackson play, he's not a little kid. This guy's a big kid, and he's probably put on about 20 or so pounds since he's been here. He walked by me just yesterday, and I kind of patted him on the back and went, dang, that was a different – just in a quick touch, and you're going, holy cow, you were, kind of skin and bones when you first got here. And now, obviously, these guys get really physical with Daryl Hunter down there in that weight room, and physicality is one of the things that we really strive for to have in our program, to where the ball does go over the fence, right? And I think we'll hit our share of home runs this year as well. It'll just be with different names.
You guys have a pretty good track record with transfer pitchers, have a big group of transfer pitchers coming in that probably are going to have to contribute right away. What's the key in just getting those guys ready to go right away? And what's the positive of bringing in a guy that maybe has collegiate experience already?
I think it's I don't know if I agree totally with the premise of the question. I agree in part, right? I do think that it's important for whether it's a transfer pitcher or a new pitcher, or specifically, I'll even take it for a step further. The guys that have been here, their development, the Colin Clarks and the Will Sanfords and Michael Mechnas and the Blake Crawfords, and the list goes on. But those guys have really emerged as being really, really good, right? And so their growth and development, I think, is first and foremost before you get to any new player. And so any of those returning pitchers, Ian Umland, who had a tremendous year last year for us, and so many of those kids have really developed, and have really liked the progress of that. The kids that have transferred in, there's some good ones. There's some good arms that have been successful in the past and are coming into the program. Cal Scalari's got a really big arm. I think he gets a lot of the hype that's out there, and he deserves it. It's a power arm, and he's a big kid, and the pro scouts are excited about what they see in him. Miles Costola, he's a loose, whippy, left-handed guy that's, again, pro scouts are super excited to see him. And there's some other kids that have really jumped into, and maybe one that was not coming in with people singing his praises as big as he is, even though he was a junior college All-American. He was a tremendous prep career in the state of Oregon. And that's Luke Morgan. And he's a sophomore right now, and he's a big, strong kid. He came in, as a good pitcher, and it seems like the development that he's even taken over the Christmas break, even through the fall, Christmas break, to where we stand today, big jump, and the kid really looks good. And so I'm excited about those guys, the transfer class, the freshman class that has come in. There's probably 3 or 4 guys that you're going to see at least get some real notable time in that group as well.
On the left, Matt.
Kind of along those same lines, just your thoughts on the depth you have from a starting arm, and the depth you have in the bullpen that can come in, and the options that you have.
It's exciting to see in scrimmage. Sometimes people say, well, we'll see what happens when the lights go on, and we will, right? But I don't buy into so much, light go on versus light goes off. The lights are on every day at PK Park, and those scrimmages are really competitive, and so I expect to see what we see in those scrimmages on game day, and it's been a really good look so far. It just seems like a balanced team. There's a lot of athleticism in the field. They've played quality defense. Like I said, we'll probably play with a little bit more speed and moving runners a little bit more than maybe we did last year, I guess. But you just play to your personnel, and whatever your personnel can furnish for you, you try to maximize it.
You mentioned Angel, but a lot of production to replace in the outfield. How's that group coming together?
Seems to be coming together pretty good. There's a couple of guys that can run around center field really, really well. Jack Brooks and Elijah Cook and, Jax Jimenez. There's, and even another Morgan, a kid named Owen Morgan. Well, Owen Morgan, who's a kid from Colorado, freshman kid that's, a little fire plug. He's a left-handed hitter that's really had a tremendous run right now. And he can play center field. So those 4 kids running around in center field, the range is noticeable for sure. Angel, sometimes Braden Jacks will run around with Burke Mabius out there. They'll catch, and when they don't catch, they'll still be in the lineup probably somewhere. They give us some flexibility. At first base, when you have Hellman and we got a kid that's transferred in now that we knew his family and his high school coach, Eric Barba from Orange Lutheran. This kid has now come in, and Gabe Miranda's a tremendous player. He can run around the outfield and play first base real well. So put up some big numbers. I think it was like Northern Kentucky or something where his last stop was. But, he's a quality young man, and these guys look like they, are big physical kids that are going to be what fans have grown to expect out of our team to look like.
Turn right out.
You added Dan Straley to the staff recently, a guy who's familiar with Springfield, Eugene area. Just one, what was the process like bringing him on? And 2, what has he added to your staff?
Well, and as of yesterday, they just passed a waiver long overdue for non-coaching staff members, is what they used to call them. They used to have just a few coaches were allowed to actually coach and teach. And so when we first brought Dan in, he was more of a type of an advisor type thing, where he would just come in and he didn't have coaching responsibilities. And as of yesterday, they lifted those responsibility or those rules, I guess, which they allow a guy like Dan Straley to now even coach and teach, even though that's not his title as pitching coach. That's Matt Floor. He'll assist Matt in the bullpen. And think about that, to be able to add Dan Straley and Travis Buck, both those guys probably, I joked about it at a function we had this last weekend, but combined, those guys have probably in just 2 years of play, probably made more than our entire coaching staff combined in our career earnings. And they probably did it in 2 years of pro baseball. So, those guys are really smart guys. They're on our staff. Travis Buck is our director of operations, and he's allowed to be around the field. Dan Straley, he's allowed to be around the field and be able to assist in expanded ways now due to this legislation waiver that it's long overdue, and it's a welcome sign. To have him, those guys can't recruit off campus, but still, yeah, they're huge benefits for our program, and to have those guys as a part of our staff is just tremendous, along with Gavin Grant and Tim Cisnera, Brett Thomas, Jack Martyr, the list goes on. It's if somebody out there has a better coaching staff than I have, that would be a fun discussion to have. We're awfully excited about these guys all on one coaching staff.
Two more, Ryan and then Rob.
Coach, on a similar note, when you have to replace a few coaches this year and you're coming off of your first pitch banquet just this weekend, when you have this connection, these relationships around the baseball community, just not only Oregon alumni like we see at the first pitch banquet, but so many other different baseball personalities and relationships that you have, how far do those relationships go in terms of investment into this program, where you can bring in a guy like Dan Straley as a coach, you can bring in guys to his first pitch banquet to have this positive momentum in your relationships towards Oregon baseball?
Well, I think a lot of the appeal is University of Oregon. This place is awesome, right? With what Carl's doing on top of this thing, and Rob Mullins from the athletic side, but Carl Schultz on the other side of the river. This place is awesome. People want to be here, right? If there's a more popular university in the United States right now, I don't think there is. University of Oregon's the place to be, and people know that. And so whether it's Dan or Travis Buck or whatever, I think it starts with what those guys have done here at Oregon. To build the University of Oregon into that type of an appetite for people to want to be a part of, number one. It helps to have guys like Andy Lopez and George Horton, that I worked for and played for, that, their family trees you can tap into to be able to find out, who the next great coach is that could assist our young guys get better, and our coaches get better, right? And we're just looking to really put as many great people around these young guys as we possibly can, to where they can learn and grow. And now you got guys that have combined for over 15 years of professional baseball, not just professional baseball, but Major League Baseball experience. You add them to the staff, and that's a huge benefit for these young guys, right? These young guys are looking at those guys just walking around in just daily conversations, and some of the stories that you hear and the people that they've come across now. We all learn a lot from each other, which is a healthy culture. And we don't really have a lot of egos. It's not really a situation where we're sitting around all thinking that we got an answer that's the only answer. Our staff meetings are awesome. They really are you could buy a ticket and sit there and learn a ton from them, because I sit there and just go, holy cow, these guys have amazing ideas. The current coaches that I've had now for a couple of years, and the other guys that have now joined the staff, truly blessed. And so from the players that have built this program to where it is today, and everybody else involved, I'm excited to work at the place that, people want to be, University of Oregon.
Just one more follow-up on Dan and Travis, and just as they get more involved in teaching, just can you speak to, in your experience, what the credibility of a guy with, big league experience on his resume, what that's going to mean in terms of the voice he has, the way he's able to connect with your players?
Well, I don't know. I know there's a ton of knowledge. They haven't been allowed to teach yet until here just, I think, yesterday or the day before yesterday. But nevertheless, they haven't been allowed to teach. So I don't know what kind of teachers they really are. I know they are tremendously knowledgeable and experienced people. And so with their personalities, I would think nothing less than they're going to be really dynamic guys and impacts on these young people in a huge manner. So I think just a lot of teaching and coaching is connections. It's wanting to connect, and it's work ethic, and they have tremendous attributes in all those areas.